So now, hello, Michelle.
Hello, Dan.
So I don't know. I always get choked up when we first start recording. I think it's the shock of having you on my show because now you're a famous actress.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we're recording this on February 8th. So by the time this is out, the show may have already debuted, and you may be so huge. You may be bigger than Taylor Swift by the time this episode is out. Is that what? So
you mean like heavier? Because yeah, that's for sure.
Oh my God, jeez, God, you're better at Jewish guilt than my Jewish friends. So, ta-da! Drum roll. Welcome to episode 42 of the Sheltercats podcast. I am Dan the Catman, and with me is Michelle the actor.
Yep, that's me.
So what? Before we continue, Michelle got a part in what play?
It's called Bus Stop.
What is that? What is that about? I have never heard. I am not a play person. So what is that about?
So it's basically it just situationally takes place in a diner, like a roadside diner in the mid 1950s during a huge snowstorm in the Midwest. And it's basically this bus is stuck by the weather, and the passengers of this bus stay at the diner until the weather is clear. And then it's just their interactions. It's how they deal with being, basically trapped together, and the kind of the relationships that they have and stuff. So,
how cool! That sounds like that Twilight Zone episode with the real Martian. Please stand up. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, there's no Martians though. Sorry, spoiler alert. No Martians.
And I didn't even know you were an actor. How did you get this? We'll talk about cats eventually.
I have been acting for actually quite a long time. It's one of my degrees that I have from college is acting. I've done a lot of shows, community theater and such. And
cool.
Yeah,
I did not know this. Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, I don't know. We just didn't get there yet, I guess. So I mostly did musicals and things, but obviously some straight plays. The last few years, I've been focusing more on just doing plays as opposed to musicals. So this will be my third in as many years. So yeah.
Cool. And when is this performance?
It'll be in April, the first couple weeks of April.
And what is your part?
My part is Grace. I play the diner. I own the diner. I run the diner. I'm kind of like the matriarch of the group.
Cool. Congratulations. Break a leg or whatever I'm supposed to say to actors.
Thank you.
You're not supposed to say good luck. They always say, don't say that. Don't say that. That's bad luck. If you say good luck.
That's right.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. We'll work the show around you because we're slowing it down to twice a month anyway.
Good. And hopefully you'll be able to come see it.
Absolutely. I'll make Ralph drive me, but yeah, for sure. Or I'll start on the train now. But anyway, welcome to episode 42, and this is another Feline Spotlight episode of the Sheltercats podcast, our labor of feline love. First of all, how are your cats, Michelle?
My cats are well. They've they milling about today. Like they're acting like I haven't fed them in a week, but I have. Definitely fed them. But they're being very pesky today, and I'm not sure why. But they are currently locked out of the bedroom because they get too noisy when I have them in the room with me. So I can't have them in the room with me, especially Legs, just nonstop. Sounds like a baby crying.
Pesky. So, they miss you. They want your attention.
I guess.
Maybe between Ralph and I, we're taking up too much of your time. Maybe
that's what it is. That's and that whole full-time job and part-time freelance, full-time job, podcast, boyfriend. It's a life well lived, and I'm happy to have it.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. As much as I complain or I feel burned out by the show, it still brings me joy because I get to record these with you.
Right. And listen, I've thought about my name because I know you keep saying Dan the Catman and then Michelle the whoever I am. So I've thought about it. Okay, I'm going to run a couple things past you. All right. Okay. What do you think? We're going to go either Meow Mama Michelle. That's one of them.
Okay.
You don't like it already. I can hear it in your voice.
I'm reserving judgment. I'm reserving. I'm waiting to hear the rest of them.
Or Meow Maven Michelle, because I like the alliteration. It has to, like, you got yours to rhyme. You got Dan the Catman. Well, I can't really rhyme much with Michelle, so I'm going for the alliteration. So Meow Maven Michelle, right?
What about Michelle the Meow Maven?
There you go. That was going to be the next, flipping it around.
Okay, Michelle the Meow Maven. I'm gonna screw that up, so you might have to correct me. We'll just have to like Dan the Catman and Michelle. You'll have to say it so that I don't want to mess with your identity. That's right. Try this. I'm not. This is not a woke podcast, but I digress. So I'll do the preamble at the end. Fuck it. But this is another feline spotlight, and as we're recording this, the current episode is a feline spotlight on Sophie. And we definitely want to have feline spotlights on Delilah and the Legman in the future as we plan our third season with fewer guests.
Yeah.
But so Mona is also my first foster fail.
Okay.
So kind of a two-pronged thing. We'll definitely spotlight Mona because she's a very unique cat, and we could discuss how not to foster the way I did, because I failed completely. So Mona appearance-wise, I have a lot of gray tabbies. So she's another gray tabby. She'll be 4 in June, so she's born in June of 2020. And she's gray. She's got spots and stripes, and she's got a big brown, I call it her big sunspot. She's got a huge gray patch in the middle of her back. It almost looks like that's where a handle should be. It's like beige. It's like a coffee ice cream, kind of like a handle in the middle of her back. And she's got a corresponding one by her right ear.
Oh,
so
that's so
she's
cute.
definitely unique, and she's got this. She doesn't meow; she squeaks. So she doesn't meow at all. It's always a very squeak that either is happy or goes up if I try to pick her up. So she is a foster fail. So still pandemic-y. It was the fall of 2020, and by that point I had already had my colony coming to the house. My then girlfriend and we had taken one in, and we were feeding a colony. So I had kind of befriended a bunch of animal rescues, even before I was blogging at the time, but there was no podcasters in my future because I had a house full of weirdos. And happened on Facebook, one of my rescue organizations did a post: "We are desperately in need of fosters. If you can foster, please let us know." Now, by that point, we had 3 cats. We had Sophie, Tucker, and Minnie. Minnie is a little black tuxedo girl that showed up at our door, and we took her in 2018, and she now lives with my ex. So we had 3, but I talked to them, my ex and her son, and I said, "What do you think? You want to try fostering?" We had the space. It's a lower level apartment, but there's space. So we all agreed, and I reached out to them, and they were very happy to speak to us because they'd heard of me through rescue circles. And after a few conversations, and again, it was pandemic, so house checks became videos.
Right.
Because they always, they ask for a vet reference, and just to make sure I'm not some Craigslist weirdo. And over a FaceTime call, I did a tour of my humble abode. So I checked out, and they said, "Great. Well, as soon as we have somebody in mind." And I also told them about my resident cats and their personalities, because with fostering, and I also tell me, I asked what fostering was. I didn't really.
Yeah.
like I had an understanding of it, but I still explained to me like what you. This is Scarly, Second Chance Rescue of Long Island is the group, and Shelley Betancourt runs it. She's awesome. So I said, explain fostering from your perspective. Like, what do you expect of me? What do you expect us to do? And basically, I said, I'll take kittens, I'll take adults, it doesn't matter. Basically, they all their cats come off the streets.
Oh.
And they don't have a physical location, so they foster.
Okay.
So their kind of shelters, so to speak, are a network of foster people.
Right.
And the foster's responsibility is to get the cat ready for a forever home. You know, kind of get them used to home life, acclimate them to living with a family. Yeah, exactly. Get them used to being with other people. Get them used to being with other cats. Get them used to your routine. So she basically said, you know, we'll provide everything you need, the medical, the food, if they're kittens, a cage, and all you do is kind of put in the work day to day. I'm like, great, sounds good. We all kind of were excited about it. At that particular moment, we were convinced we would do it the right way. So not like 2 or 3 days later, I heard from Shelley, from Scarly. She goes, we have these 10-week-old kittens. They were found in Northport, which is I would say like Suffolk County, kind of like early Suffolk County on Long Island. They were found in Northport. They were, you know, mother gave birth to kittens. They're 10-week-old kittens. Pretty much, I don't know the exact number. We'd have to ask one of our experts, but after a couple of months, if you don't start socializing kittens, you kind of lost the window.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 months, but don't quote me. If anybody's listening who knows the answer, please reach out to us. But after a couple of months, if you don't start socializing kittens, the chances of them getting homes becomes shorter and shorter.
Right.
Because when they're young, you can get them, they're a lot more impressionable, and they'll bond with humans much easier than when they're adults.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
You know, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, you know, if you take in like a 6-month-old kitten or a 9-month-old, you know, kind of like teenager, so to speak, they're less apt to being house cats because they get more kind of set in their ways. So, they basically said time is of the essence. These are siblings. They're not bonded. They can be separated. I said, we'll take them both. The hell with it. We'll take them both. They showed us the pictures, and they were 2 very cute, tiny, gray tabby kittens. So I showed the picture to my ex and her son who lived here, and we all started to melt. So like they weren't even here yet, and I felt like we were going to fail. I'm like, what am I getting into? And
well, with that attitude, Dan, of course.
And Sophie's looking at me like, don't do it. We have enough people here. Don't do it. So that weekend, Shelley came by and dropped off the 2 kittens, and dropped off a cage, which I set up in the living room. And an hour or so later, there were these frightened boy and girl, little gray kittens. And she said off the bat, the boy is very social, the girl is not. So the girl is going to need a lot more work. We're kind of concerned that she might not be a good house cat.
And how did it work out in the beginning as far as like box training and stuff? I mean, did you have to do that, or did the other cats lead them to do it, or like how did that work out?
Well, if you go by the book, when they're very, very young kittens, the what you're supposed to do if you read like Cats for Dummies, which I've read, you're supposed to put them when they're tiny kittens in the litter box, and you're supposed to use like yesterday's news kind of litter. You're supposed to use very like litter for sensitive feet, like the brand is Yesterday's News or Feline Pine, like pine-based litter as opposed to clay or dust-based litter. And you're supposed to put them in there, and you take their feet and you rub and you kind of dig with their feet. And
Okay.
somehow, some way, it ingrains in their brain, I poop here.
Huh. Really?
Because when they're out in the wild, they go in dirt.
Well, that's interesting, because I've always either had kittens that came from, a litter where they all learned from their mama cat, or I've had mature cats that I've gotten from, other homes that were rehomed to me, and they've all already been box trained. So like I've never had to.
These guys were pretty well trained. The good thing about like Penelope, Penelope's story, she used the box the first night.
Right.
The good thing about cats, no matter what their age, is they're very good at figuring out. As long as they know where it is, they can get to it. It's clean. Yeah. More often, obviously, there are exceptions. Some cats have issues, but most of the time, they're pretty much like, okay, I go in that thing, I eat here. I'm not gonna reverse that. Yeah, they're pretty good about it. I showed it to them. Shelly said, put them in the litter box. Make sure they kind of smell it, make sure it's an open litter box, so don't get one with a hood right away.
Okay.
Because young kittens can get intimidated by the hood.
Huh. Okay.
Like being in an enclosed space, so leave it open, which is, less pretty and doesn't smell as good, but
right.
It'll benefit the cats, having good litter, having good bathroom manners.
Right.
So now there was this cage in the middle of the living room. Everybody was excited. And everybody's like, can we handle them? Can we handle them? And Shelly said, of course, please do. The more you handle them, the better. So they all went for the boy, took him out. Scarly's kind of thing was they like to name cats with the first letter of the town that they were trapped in.
Okay.
So Vance, who's also from the same group, he came from Valley Stream, and that's how he became Vance Refrigeration from The Office.
Yeah, gotcha.
But as a then, I had The Office on Vance Refrigeration. His official name is Vance Refrigeration. You'd be surprised how few people get the reference. So thank you. Points to you. But we couldn't all settle on a name. We went from Nirmal, Nirmal, Nara, Naruto, all these we didn't like any of them. Yeah. They started calling the boy, because of he had these little coffee colored toe beans, foot pads.
Oh.
They looked like coffee, like mocha. So they started calling him Bean. And I started calling him Bean Boy, because from minute one he had all this personality. He's with my ex as well. He's very kind of outgoing and very personable and very curious, and happy and playful. And he befriended Tucker right away. And Tucker kind of took him under his paw, his wing. Mm-hmm. So I said to them, "We're coming up with names, but they're not going to have N, so you're just going to have to deal." So he became Bean Boy. And somehow the girl became Ramona.
Katya.
I don't remember exactly how they started calling her Ramona, and I started calling her Mona.
That's so
fine. Ramona, in short order, became Mona.
Right.
Because, like legs. After a while, at first you're like, what the when I first learned Legs is named Legs.
Uh-huh.
At first your brain is like, this does not compute. A cat should not be named after a French leotard. Or like a Jane Fonda 80s workout video. Because I'm picturing leotard and the big bunchy socks.
I'm telling you, if you saw him the first week we got him, the weight had the height that this cat had when he stretched his paws up to the counter, and the way his hind legs looked, you would have called them legs too, or like Too Tall Jones or something, just something, because
Too Tall Jones.
Because it was just crazy. It was crazy. It was the first thing that came to our minds, and it kind of stuck. But of course I never call him that. He's always buddy or pal or bud or,
Yeah,
you know.
or pss, pss,
Yeah, yeah.
No, but it becomes at first your brain is like, this is no, what the fuck? But then in short order it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
So then,
Yep.
like he was Bean Boy, and Ramona was Mona. She just was a
Yep.
Mona, and you couldn't think of any other name. So again, I was completely new to fostering. I kept them in the cage when we weren't there. When we were home, we let them out for a little bit at a time. Bean liked being out from minute one. Mona, the polar opposite. She was angry, hissing, growling. She was hiding because we put blankets and beds, and there was a couple of hammocks that clipped to the top of the cage, so they had like where to kind of sleep suspended.
Yeah.
So he loved being held. He loved running around and playing with Tucker. They tried to put a collar with a bell on him, and he kept pulling it off his head. And he loved toys. Mona hated everybody. Did not want to come out of the cage. She hid under the blankets or the bed. She wouldn't let you handle her. And to this day, she hates being picked up. You cannot pick her up. Ralph will tell you the story.
Mm-hmm.
I will too. She hated being handled from minute one, and she did not want to come out of the cage. And this went on for like a week. And they even, after a couple of days, they each got like a minor eye infection, so they had to be handled because we had to put drops in their eyes.
Right.
So Bean, no problem. You pick him up. He didn't care. Mona, we had to wrap her in a towel like a burrito.
No, I'm sorry, Dan. No, you have that wrong. It's a burrito.
Okay? A burrito. You nobody needs to open another cat cafe more than you. You have all.
I just want to name the products. I don't want to run it. I just want to be there when we name the products. That's it. I'll come in as like a consultant or something.
When we're interviewing Whiskers and Wine in the near future, so I'll pitch you to do their marketing.
I think they got that handled already.
So she was a burrito. So just her head sticking out, and she's growling and hissing, but got the drops in, and the infection cleared up. So I was kind of, the goal was socialize so they get forever homes. What I always did with my other cats, all my cats were rescues and came from shelters, and my thought was always they need to get used to my day-to-day life, my routine, what I do all the time. When I wake up, when I clean, when I go to work, when I come home, and when we sit to watch TV, when people come and go. Because again, I was less of a hermit in those days, and that's what I did. I left the cage uncovered because it's kind of like a bird. They said cover the cage at night. I left it uncovered, so Tucker, Mona, and Minnie would kind of watch them. Minnie was less thrilled with them, but Tucker and Sophie, they would sit in front of the cage and kind of look at them. So I kind of let them interact on either side of the cage. When I had to vacuum, I vacuumed right around the cage, and they would hide in one corner, they'd hide in the other corner.
Yeah.
And then after like another week or two, they stopped hiding and they just watched me vacuum. So they just got used to it.
Right.
Big, loud, scary things. I just did it in front of them, daily, the same time, every day. So they kind of got used to the routines of when things happened in the house. And I made sure to feed them the same time, and I took them out at the same time, and kind of cleaned the litter boxes at the same time. And slowly, like after about a month, Mona started coming out of the cage. And she still wasn't like thrilled. She would still hiss and hide. And if you went to go interact with her, she'd run back into the cage. But kind of as September turned into October, you started to notice a shift. I think after a few weeks, she started to pick up on the fact that she was safe here and that this was a good place to be. I don't know what happened to her when she was a young kitten in the streets in Norwalk. Norwalk. When she went Norwalk, Northport. Yeah, Norwalk, and when she had to board the Greyhound to get here. Northport, senior moment. She may have been traumatized. She may have been, somebody may have chased her or traumatized her. You don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody might have melded with her, and I could tell you. So, but after like a good month, I'd say 6 weeks, the tension started to ease, and I noticed she liked being out of the cage more and more. She started to explore. She started to interact with she really took to Sophie. And Sophie's a loner of a cat, but Sophie kind of tolerated her. She knew, Sophie knew she could influence this young kitten, so she didn't mind her very much. Tucker loves everybody, so he was happy to show her around. You come in here, this is where this happens, and he would kind of sit with them, and it almost felt like he was giving them like guidance counselor, mentor lessons. Okay, well, here's how you get treats, and here's how you do this, and here's how you do that. And he just kind of let her like on her own. She kind of just started getting used to. She found the tree, she found the windows, she started to sit in the window and look out. She started playing with toys, and that kind of anger and tension started to just melt away. And she just liked being a house cat. To the point where by the 2-month mark, early November, we took the cage away because they were growing like weeds. They were growing so fast. It was ridiculous. Like every day it looked like they doubled in size, like fucking tribbles, like tribbles from Star Trek. They were, they were growing so fast. They were starting to outgrow the cage. They liked being out. It became very difficult to get them back in the cage. So finally, I asked, because I kept in touch with Shelly. I said, "Can I just take the cage away?" She goes, "Yeah, if you feel they're ready." They weren't getting, they weren't knocking the TV over. They weren't eating wires. They weren't doing. They were mostly, went when they were where they were supposed to go because the resident cats, they followed their lead. So I think if you fostered and if you didn't have resident cats, it might be different. They might not understand.
Yeah.
Here's where the toys are. Here's the scratching post. Here's where the cat related things are. You might have to work harder to don't go behind here. Don't chew that. That's a wire. Or don't climb on your stereo. But because they watched, they were fascinated by the adult cats. They were able to kind of mimic what they did and pick up on it.
Right.
And then she just became a house cat. Took the cage away, and it was like she never lived in the cage. She had her spots. She would sleep on, her where she liked to sleep. We took the litter, put a hood on the litter boxes, and they used them without any problems. They were obviously very energetic, very playful. So Tucker would chase around with them. Minnie too, Sophie too would run around with them. It was like a breath of fresh air. And then she sat on my lap, and I was done. It was around Thanksgiving of 2020.
That's
and
all
again,
it took.
Because it was around. Actually, it was right around Thanksgiving of 2020, and we were having a few people here. And right around that time, because, again, I was in daily contact with Shelly, sending her pictures about how well they're doing. And then it was a few days before Thanksgiving, and Shelly texted me, "There's a family that's interested in seeing them."
Oh, no.
Because, again, up to that point, they were fosters.
Yep.
So the thought was we would acclimate them and then they would leave. That's if you are a successful foster, and that people can get emotionally attached, and then let them go to forever homes without breaking down or, start
That's what
abusing.
scares me about fostering. I love the idea of it, but I won't even go into a pet store. I can't even go into a pet store because I want to take everybody home with me. Everybody. Cats, dogs, iguanas, bunnies, birds, fish, everything. I want to take it all home with me, but I can't, obviously.
I'll pass on the iguanas. Thank you.
I love iguanas. They're very cool.
Yeah, they just sit under lights and eat. Listen, you have an iguana. I'm all more power to you. They just look like belts and they sit under lights and eat salad all day.
Yep.
Maybe I'm just jealous of their lifestyle.
Maybe they get to sit under heat lamps and just chill and not really do anything and
But they don't need suntan lotion. I'd burn.
No suntan lotion. That's right. They do not spontaneously combust like I do when I go into the sun.
I would get a melanoma or something. They're fine.
Yep.
But I digress.
Sorry.
Iguanas. Okay. They would last 5 minutes in this house. They'd end up being bells. But anyway, that's terrible. So she messaged me. There's a family that are interested in Bean and Mona. When can they come visit? And I mentioned this. I said, guys, they're fosters, and they had become very attached to Bean as well. Bean sat on everyone's lap, and he was as happy as Mona got. Bean was always kind of quote unquote in the lead because he was so personable. I'm sure he still is,
Right.
Despite everything about the negative about the relationship, I'm going to presume she's still good with the cat. And I'm assuming they're well cared for. I'm sure they are. But he was very personable, very happy and playful, and sat on everyone's lap. And he was like, he always stole the show. So once I said that, she teared up, and her son picked up Bean and looked at me and he said, "No fucking way."
I'm sorry. And how old was the son at this point?
Yeah, mid 20s, mid to late 20s.
Oh, okay. All right. So an adult.
Yeah, an adult.
Like a 12-year-old or something.
No, it is mid 20s. He's 6'2". I loved him like a son. He picked up because Bean would go sit in his room and he'd watch him play video games, and he picked up Bean. So the 6'2" Chewbacca dude,
yeah,
picks up Bean, scoops him into his arms, looks at me, and with tears in his eyes said, "No fucking way." He offered to pay the adoption fee. I said, "Shelly, I'm sorry. Actually, we're going to keep them." and that was it. By Thanksgiving, we had adopted Bean and Mona, so three cats became 5.
There you go.
So a success and a failure. A success in that we were able to successfully raise kittens.
Yeah.
A failure in that literally the first interest that was shown in adopting them, like set off like there would have been a revolt in the house had I said no, they have to go or anything like that. And Shelley was of course happy that they got forever homes, and we filled out the application and adopted them, paid the fee, whatever, and adopted them. But that meant that we had to close our door for future fostering. So there's a positive in that they integrated really well into the household, and we loved them. The negative in that, that's one less household for fosters. Because I said I want to help you guys, but if I take in another, we're gonna screw this up again, and we're gonna be on the news for like being hoarders or something, and that's not what I want. I want them to have a good quality of life. So, obviously, since I've become a bachelor 2 years ago, that has changed because 4 more have joined my household. since they left and Bean and Minnie left. But they integrated so well. Sophie and Tucker loved them, took them in right away. Minnie was always Minnie was very alpha, so she wasn't that thrilled with them. Sometimes she would hiss at them and growl. She would never get into fights with them, but I think out of jealousy, because she wasn't the new kid on the block anymore, I think she kept her distance from them. She didn't mind them, but she wasn't like their best friend, which is fine.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Can't expect them all to get along. They're not all.
Yeah, but there was, even though it's a 2-bedroom apartment, there's always plenty of space, and there's a lot of cat trees and shelves, and there's always plenty of corners for everyone to go and have their space. Yeah. Have their alone time if they want it, and plenty of. That's no matter what house you live in. Always make sure that everybody's got a corner to go, and have their alone time, because cats like to have alone time.
That also applies to humans.
Yeah, that's why I like being a bachelor. I like my alone time. But as more and more time went on, Mona and I actually started to bond, and it was like a few weeks after she became officially, the house cat. There was one time I was sitting in my chair. I'm of the age of the recliner, so I have a couple of recliners, and out of nowhere, she was always happy, and she became kind of happy and knew when she loved to eat and she loved to play, and she spent a lot of time with Tucker and Sophie. But out of nowhere, one time I'm sitting, it was winter, so I'm sitting in my chair with a blanket watching TV, and out of nowhere, she just jumps on the blanket and falls asleep on me.
Aw.
She was starting to let me pet her a little bit and rub her. She would rub, and she was getting happier. She definitely, just became content. But out of nowhere, literally nowhere, no prompting, no anything. All of a sudden, she jumps on my lap, curls up, and falls asleep. And she did not do that with anybody else. And to this day, if I sit on my chair with a certain fleece blanket, specifically, it's a Snuggie.
So you're being very generous when you said fleece blanket. It's a Snuggie.
To be absolutely technical.
Uh-oh.
My mother sent me the QVC version many years ago. It's called the Slanket.
Oh yes, I've heard of the Slanket.
My mother was had a big problem with QVC. So the Snuggie was not good enough for this Jewish boy. She sent me the Slanket, which I still have and use. So if I have that or anything involving fleece, if I'm laying down, I'm covered in it has to be covered in a blanket, otherwise she won't lay with me. If I just sit in a chair, she'll sit on the arm next to me. But if I have a blanket on, she jumps on my lap, she purrs, she rubs my face, and she passes out. So she became, and to this day, she's that kind of a cat. She's very cuddly. The negatives are you cannot pick her up. That is from minute one. You're not able to ever pick her up. If you pick her up, she goes absolutely crazy.
It's so fascinating. Like you say, you wonder what happened, just in those few weeks that she was outside on her own. Like what happened that created this such deep trauma for her, and meanwhile, there's other cats that Delilah, my black and white, she's a Klingon. She's like a class A Klingon, and I just like, she sleeps on, I can pick her up and hold her, and she sleeps on my chest. She sleeps on my stomach, between my legs, in the little, the sleeping hole when you're on your side. Like she is just like a clinger, like just right there.
What about legs?
Legs to some degree, but he does that when I'm sleeping, or he'll come and he'll like lay, if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV or something, he'll come and sit next to me, and he's a strange cat. He likes to be held tightly. So like he'll come and sit next to me, and as long as I hold him and I kind of like push him into me and hold him strongly, he'll stay. If I just lightly hold him or lightly pet him, he's gone. Like he's a walk by petter. Like he'll just he'll just like walk across your lap. You'll get like a good stroke across his back, and then he keeps on going. But if I pull him into me and hold him tight, he'll stay there.
Interesting.
And then when I'm sleeping, he always sleeps between me and the edge of the bed. We pretty much spoon every night.
Oh.
But he doesn't sleep on me. He doesn't need to be on top of me. Like he almost never crawls on top of me when I'm sleeping. Meanwhile, this other one, I can wear her for a scarf. Like it's just so fascinating. Like they're two different, they're different personalities. But to know that Mona was just outside for what was she? What'd you say? 10 weeks when you got her?
She was just about 10 weeks old. Yeah.
About 10 weeks. Just so a little over 2 months. She was outside. Like what happened? What happened to this poor little girl?
Something traumatic.
Yeah.
Because either whatever that was didn't happen to Bean, or he didn't care because he was, he was a lap cat. He would sit on shoulders. You could pick him up. You could hold him upside down, like on his back with his feet up in the air. He didn't care.
Yeah.
The other thing is, they were not bonded. Half the time, Bean annoyed her. He was always a lot more playful, and she was a lot more laid back. So anytime he would try to get her to play or get her to wrestle, she'd get really pissed at him.
Right.
To the point where when they left and they were officially separated, Mona didn't care. I was, almost concerned. They were still siblings. Would she go through a funk? Would she get down about it? She took right to Tucker and didn't care at all. So, they were not bonded siblings, so they were able to be separated. She's much closer with Tucker and Vance and all the other men here. She's also close with Sophie. She usually sleeps on the couch with Sophie. But Bean, she can give two shits. She didn't care at all when he left.
Right.
So, and we had the one incident where she had a fever, Thanksgiving of 2022, and Ralph and our mutual friend Danielle had to basically, like with gloves on and winter coats, like we were handling a hawk.
Is she the one that you had to turn the tree upside down to get her out? Okay.
Yes. Ralph so generously offered to drive me to the vet because she was spiking a very high fever. And cats, their temperature is a few degrees higher than us. So her fever, like all of a sudden she was very lethargic and she wasn't eating and she was just sitting in the slipper mode. The bear slipper mode, and she wasn't interacting. So I knew she was sick because as soon as the routine changes, something's going on. And her head felt very hot, and she wasn't eating or drinking or doing anything. So I knew I had to get her to the vet. The issue was she never liked being held. If you tried to pick her up, she would freak, scratch you, and run under the bed. Like that with being held, and like that with guests. If guests come over, she hides all the way at the foot of the bed, and she won't come out for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So I had to close all the doors. I had to block as many ways under furniture as I could. Ralph came over, and she got herself in the cubby of one of the living room trees, and she wouldn't come out for no money. And every time I tried to grab her, she shrieked like you thought I was stepping on her tail. And the two of us, we couldn't do it. I gave him a pair of gloves, I think. I had gloves on. I was covered in cat hair. You're amazed she wasn't like a Sphinx cat after that, because so much hair came off just from being stressed. So then I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose her because she's not. I don't get her to the vet, she may not make it. So we called a mutual friend who does trappings, Danielle, and she came over, and with the three of us, we tipped her. We had to upend the carrier. Ralph and I each held an end of the tree so that the hole of the cubby was facing down. And finally, Danielle, who had smaller arms than us, was able to scoop her and drop her right into the carrier. So with 10 minutes to spare, we got her. We're like, thank you, we gotta go. We ran to the vet. She got antibiotics, and she got better within a few hours.
Right. Dan, I can't wait to tell you about my cat Monday and the drama that I went through with her. Some very similar striking parallels.
Well, let's make that the next feline spotlight.
Yeah, she was quite a cat. She's the one I had until she was about 20, and then she passed away from a respiratory infection. But I had her from when she was a kitten, and we went through a lot, she and I.
I definitely can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
You hear that, folks? There'll be many more the feline spotlights. So the moral of the feline spotlight series is, we kind of hope you can relate to these stories of our cats. So this is to the people out there who have cats, and we hope you could kind of relate to these stories. I guess the moral of this story, as I see it, is don't overlook the kitten that's pissed off and not being look at that kitten, like,
yeah,
right. Don't overlook those.
Not all of them are immediately lovable. Some of them just take a little bit more work, and it's almost more reward, in that situation, because like, you earned it. You worked for it and you earned it, and that cat will be with you.
Yeah, and exactly. Some of them just need a lot more time. Please don't take my experience as a foster fail to heart. We definitely, wherever you are in the world, open your home to being a foster. If you can kind of harden your heart to the fact that all your hard work and this cat that you may and probably will bond with will eventually leave your home and go to a forever home. If you can do that more successfully than I cannot recommend it more highly. It's a rewarding experience. I have a foster now named Rosie, who will be a foster because she hates me. although she's just started to let me pet her when she's eating. So she's been here a couple of months. She will go to a home. She's adorable.
Is she a mature cat? What is she?
She's about 2.
Okay.
But she hates me because I'm tall, because I'm Jewish. I don't know what it is. She doesn't like me, except when I'm feeding her, and then she's my best friend. So definitely consider fostering. Every shelter rescue in the entire universe that have homeless cats or have shelter cats need fosters. There's never not a point in time where fosters are not needed. So if you could open your home, open a spare room, open a spare bathroom, I cannot recommend it more highly. And all the materials, supplies, medical expenses are provided for. So if something goes wrong, they'll take care of it. If you need food, litter, supplies, they'll take care of it. And it helps so much to be able to give that potential house cat a taste of the good life.
Yeah.
And prepare them for an eventual family. So just because I failed doesn't mean you won't fail. Please consider it. Contact your local rescue, look on Facebook or social media or whatever, and go find them. And if you're willing to open your home, just reach out to them. Let them know, hey, I'd like to try fostering. I listened to Dan and Michelle go on about Mona, and I want to try fostering. That would be the perfect solution. But anyway, I'm going to do now it's preamble time.
Okay.
So the website is tylerthecat.com. The new website will eventually, once we get Ralph back, will be sheltercatspodcast.com. But Our emails are dan@sheltercatspodcast.com and michelle@sheltercatspodcast.com. On Facebook, we have a page called Shelter Cats. On Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, just search Shelter Cats Podcast. On Twitter, it's either Dan Tract or Shelter Cats POD. And we have a YouTube, just search Shelter Cats, where we do audios of the episodes. So if you need closed captions or anything, you could watch and read along on YouTube. And every Saturday, we have a blog on Medium, which is sheltercats.medium.com. And this has been episode 42. Coming up, we have more rescues, more feline spotlights on some of my cats, past and present, on Michelle's cats with their awesome names, past and present. You definitely have more unique names. Mine are just generic, Jim, Bob. You're like Monday, Tuesday, legs. So I think you're varied talents in your career and your commanding cosmopolitan voice. I think it fits in with the aura that is Michelle,
the meow maven.
Michelle the meow maven. And I know by the time this is out, you'll be either the show will have gone on or pretty close. But good luck.
Thank you so much.
Break a leg. I mean, damn it.
Yep. No, I got it. It's all good.
Break a leg. I know you're gonna be amazing. And
but will I be a meowsing?
Oh,
that's the question.
You'll be amazing. See, you're all choked up from worry.
That's right.
You're amazing and a meowsing and everything in between. I always love our episodes. Mr. Actor has gotten very busy, so he'll get around to us eventually. But I got another voiceover, and Mr. Jerry Torrey from Great Gardens will be joining us at some point soon.
Yep.
Which I'm pretty excited about. He's a good friend, but he's an artist and he works in clay. So every time he works in clay, he gets bronchitis because he inhales too much clay dust.
So maybe wear a mask.
I said wear a mask, drink hot tea.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. The show will be here.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself first. But he's excited to be on.
Yeah.
And we have great stuff planned. But Michelle, always a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you, Dan.
Always a pleasure. And
yep.
Say hi to your brood, your cats.
I will.
And we'll see everybody in the next episode.
Okay.
Bye for now.
So long.
Meow.
Meow.